Good morning, everybody. In today's quick video, I would like to go back to the Boolean modifiers and show you how, for example, I would proceed from this stage. Now let's assume what you see here with the material separation, which I painted, is actually a design proposal that I would like to continue working with. So now I have to actually slice my object. And the easiest way to do this is, instead of working with shaded mode, I'm going to work with the material mode, because that basically means that I can see, like from a side view, the different materials, and I can use that actually as a guide for creating my cutting surfaces. So I place my 3D cursor, create a plane, and for example, I'm going to start with this section here. So just very simple, extrude. So push it over. Okay, then maybe a simple subsurface. I'm going to Control B, bevel this edge. And then, yeah, I have to add some extra loop cuts, because I would like, of course, this edge to work better. So you see, my task now is to try to match actually the topology. And looks like what I did here was not very smart. So I'm going to undo this and actually leave it first at this point and then push this over. So I'm not going to bevel it, because I think, like, yeah, I can get a tighter curve this way. I'm very close to the texture that I drew. Okay, good. Let's take a look at the next point, and I'm going to start with a circle actually, because I think this should be close to a circular profile. Yeah, it's not. Okay, good. So then I still have to hand sketch this surface. So I create again another surface, maybe move the piece to somewhere here, and then try to, with very even strokes, meaning the distance between those points should be at best very even. And you see, by again switching to project the editing cage directly onto the mesh, helps me to see the curved subsurface, and then I can rather actually modify it this way, because I see actually how the curve will feel. Okay, yeah, maybe a level 2. Maybe just a little bit more of adjustment here. At one point I'm getting nearly close to it. Okay, like this. Good. Well, all those actually have to to go on the y-axis. Oh no, sorry, this is x-axis. So they penetrate my object. And both should be shaded. Okay, so this, for example, this piece I call cut top, maybe Boolean cut top, and this one I call Boolean cut bottom. Good. And yeah, I'm just moving this one to layer 7 and I make a duplicate in layer 7. Let's go to there. And this one I put to layer 6. And then maybe iron to cut. So I know actually what the name of this object will be, because this will be, let's say, the piece we're going to send to the wrapper prototyper. Okay, so I'm going to the mesh data. So basically in here you see we have the iron object, and the iron object, iron to cut, is using the cube 006 mesh information. So the polygon mesh, this stuff, for example, that's cube 0.006, and we can also maybe call this one iron to cut mesh. The reason why I'm doing this is because, you will see, I still would like now to start cutting. So, you know, we can add a Boolean modifier. Then, for example, Boolean cut top. And now actually right now, it, as you can see, it cut the opposite. So I can switch the operation to difference. And then I can add, for example, an edge split. Okay, so you see now, by flipping the orientation, it created the opposite part. Now, technically speaking, intersect means if you have like two rings overlapping, you will get the intersecting surface or area. And difference means, well, one piece takes its volume out of the other piece. Now, the reason why I can switch kind of like between keep left or keep right in Blender is because instead of cutting with a volume, we're cutting with surfaces. So with the surface, I cut kind of like this other surface. Booleans normally are volume tools. So that's actually the interesting trick why basically difference or intersect while providing different operations. In this case, actually give you either the A or the B result. So what can we do now to get the other part of our iron? So what we do is, instead of making a duplicate, we're making a linked duplicate. So I press Alt D, press Escape, because I do not want my second piece to move. And you can see now this is called iron to cut 001. For example, this one I call no, maybe mid section. And if I go to the mesh, you see it's actually sharing the same mesh part. And that's going to be quite important in a second. Now to get the different result, I simply go to intersect. There. So there you see the top, this part. So, and the main reason why I mentioned to cut to create a linked duplicate, so a clone, is to share the mesh, because if I now go into any object, into edit mode, for example, select this point and stretch it, you will see that actually I modeled in both objects at the same time. So those are two different objects, but they all share the same polygon mesh. So I can do my cuttings, but still actually can later continue modeling on one part if I need to, and I have everything being updated. And of course now I moved this piece and I can undo it because I just have to move it back by hand. So this approach, or the concept, is simply there to minimize work, because as you can see, if I still need to adjust parts, I can do it on one object, and the others, because they're all linked, it's kind of like a parametric approach, are being updated then as well. Now the last task is to cut down the lower part here. So I select now this part, I go to Booleans, add to the modifier, and I add another Boolean modifier. For example, move it up. And then, for example, this would be cut bottom. And maybe leave it at difference. There. There you see now the result of this calculation. Okay. Now, if I again make a duplicate, press escape, switch the direction. Maybe this one I can call now bottom. You can see now basically nicely the different results. So I have this one, and this one. So that's, for example, an approach how you can use the different kind of like surfaces to cut one object without all the time applying the modifiers. Because let's say I still would like to have a little bit of design freedom. For example, here I'm going to add another loop cut. And you see that actually we're starting to reach kind of like the capacity of the software when it comes to fast workflow, because the screen refresh is actually going down now, because everything here right now is interactive. So every time if I do something, those Boolean modifiers can slow down your system a lot. And you see, for example, those two shells are cut now based on how I changed the surface. And if I remove the edge, and there, update it back to how it was before. Okay, that was for this video everything I wanted to show about how, for example, we can use then, after you studied the different cuts through the material system, how then to replicate those cuts again with Boolean modifiers. And you see that this actually makes much more sense to paint the separations first, and then afterwards go into the modifiers, rebuild those cut lines with meshes, and then start separating the actual mesh.